LA, I found very interesting information regarding the drones, but I want to know what your take is. What do you think they are, and is it just a distraction?
Well, it's complex, and we don't know what we're looking at. The media is silent on this for the most part. Let me put it this way: the media isn't, but the government is. If these were hostiles, in my opinion, if these were the Chicoms or the Iranians or somebody doing this thing, they'd be blown out of the sky in a New York minute. There's no way. They were now over Wright-Patterson. So, Wright-Patterson is one of the most secure places on the planet. So they shut down the airspace over Wright-Pat. They closed it. I mean, what are we looking at? The only people who can do that is some sort of a branch of our government, that we're not aware of. Now, I got my tinfoil hat on here. I understand that because this is the stuff of conspiracy theory. But someone is being told to stand down. The military is being told to stand down. They are, because you just don't fly in the American and U.S. airspace and park drones for 4 or 5 hours, harassing people, unless the higher ups know exactly what's going on and they are telling you, we know what's going on. These are our guys. Just stand down. We don't want to alarm the public. So the scenario that I came up with, and I actually did a program on it today. I wrote about this in 2006 in the book Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural, The Coming Great Deception and the Luciferian Endgame. It's out of print. My editor and I, Sonda Allison, are actually working on a second edition where, this was written almost 20 years ago now, right? And one of the things I talk about in the book are dirty nukes and dirty bombs. And so when the former Soviet Union collapsed, and this is a matter of historical record, not conspiracy theory. You can look at the books, you can look at the footnotes. It's all documented. They had suitcase nukes. Were about the size of a footlocker. That's why they call them suitcase nukes. And they had detonation codes. A suitcase nuke would last 6 or 7 years. So that's decades ago. There's no way you can explode it like you would Hiroshima or Nagasaki. That's not what's going to happen. But what you could do is take dynamite or C4 or some other explosive and blow the thing up. Now what have you just done? You've taken all that radioactive material and spread it throughout an area, i.e. the New York Stock Exchange, an airport someplace, downtown, Los Angeles. I mean, pick your place of detonation. We also know that when this was happening, terrorist groups, and this is a matter, again, of historical record. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not. I mean, it's absolutely documented. Terrorist groups were buying these suitcase nukes on the black market that were taken from the former Soviet Union. It's a matter of historical record. That's what was going on. Our southern border, which is porous now, was just as porous then. People were just walking across the border, carte blanche, whatever they wanted to do. So many people believe that more than one suitcase nuke came across the southern border and was embedded into a city. So how does that work? Well, it gives the terrorist organization or the government behind it great leverage. They can say, you do A, B, and C, and if you don't do it, we will detonate the suitcase nuke. So here's something to think about. Why is it that we haven't heard anything from the government about what these are? Because the government can't come out and say, hey, we're looking for dirty bombs. We're looking for spikes in radioactivity. Why can't they say that? Because can you imagine the mass panic on the eastern seaboard, i.e. New Jersey, that would happen? Yeah, we think that there's a dirty nuke parked in Newark, New Jersey. Can you imagine the exodus of people, the traffic jams on the freeways, the raiding of all the stores, for goods and gasoline and all this stuff? Mass panic would ensue. Absolute mass panic would ensue. So they can't say anything, and rightfully so. But they're out there looking for something, in my opinion. That's scenario one. Scenario two is that these drones are monitoring other drones. And these other drones may be, underline may be, because I don't have all the answers, nobody does, may be non-human technology. Why? Because we've seen these things come out of the water and go into the water. What are we looking at there? There's a third possibility. Is this whole thing a false flag? In other words, will they detonate a nuke deliberately somewhere, which shuts the whole United States down, just like 9/11? So now we're in martial law, no airfare, no traveling, everything is shut down, no inauguration. President Trump doesn't, oh, this is, this is martial law. We gotta be careful here. We can't do the administration change. And some of this, again, it's conjecture, but the powers that be are terrified of the Trump agenda because he's going to go in, he's going to clean out the deep state. Now, as I'm speaking in the halls of Congress, the Speaker of the House is, in my opinion, somehow compromised. That's conjecture. I'm not saying he did something illegal or anything like that. Let's make that clear. But in some way, he may be compromised. Who knows how? And he could be innocent of everything except they got a gun to his head. If you don't do this, one of your kids will go missing. That's how I was threatened, in 2016. You stop talking about the Kandahar Giant or one of your kids may go missing and never find them. I was threatened by a guy from a deep state. That's how they play the game. So this whole spending bill, which is just insane, completely insane, which will once again lead the country into bankruptcy. What's going on with this? How is it going to play out? And we don't know. So it's a very, very complex mix. The powers that be know that Trump, just look who's on the cabinet. Just look who's the borders are. This guy already is going after Katie Hobbs in Arizona. Bully for this guy. If Trump and his cabinet, he's got 2 years though to fix it. Because 2 years, the midterms happen. Right now, we have all three branches of government. That can change in a New York minute 2 years from now. And what Trump needs to do, he needs to go in and zero in on the election in California because 5 seats flipped after 3 weeks of counting the votes. Oh, gee, isn't that convenient? They just keep counting the votes until they get what they want. Where do these votes? It really needs to be looked into. This was in Orange County, which is as red as you can possibly get, and 5 Democrats win because 3 weeks later, they're declared the winners. Oh, look, and I think it was stolen. That is my opinion. I'm not saying it was stolen. I want to make that really clear, but I would suggest that someone really look into that. I smell something rotten in Denmark. So that's my take on what's happening. We live in very unprecedented times.
Absolutely. And I had listened to another interview you did, and you were talking about, that some people were saying the drones could be spraying some stuff. And I just found it, I'm not saying there is any connection, but it's interesting that, okay, drones in California. Oh, now Gavin Newsom declares a state of an emergency with bird flu.
Bird flu.
Yeah. And it's, but that same thing actually happened in 2020 with drones. So we're not saying anything, we're just saying it's very, very interesting. Now, but people are not only seeing drones, they're seeing these orbs. Is that Project Bluebeam? What do you think these orbs are?
Look, again, Janie, it's really a mixed bag. And I'm one guy, I've been studying this and reporting on it. We have 10 films on it, as you know. The book, Rungs of Disclosure. We've got real resources which talk about all this stuff, and we got a great deal working with you guys on this, and your constituents should really consider getting these products because it arms you. We have a few minutes together. There's 10 films in that 10 DVD box set. 10 films. Everything on close encounters of the first, second, third kind, abductions, cattle mutilations, crop circles. Really, it's on 2 films on Roswell. Finally, what is the truth? What are we looking at? What is this phenomenon? What is the truth? So, the bottom line for me is that it's a very, very complex mix that we're looking at. I talked with my elder brother, Gary Stearman, last week about this, and he raised the same fear and concern, I should say, that you just raised. Are they spraying something? Now, there is, in my book, Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural, which is out of print, but I talked about this. They were spraying stuff up in San Francisco, I think in the 60s or the 70s. They were running experimentation like this. Our government. I mean, look what they did with LSD. I mean, they were slipping it into people's drinks to watch the reaction. I mean, these are the guys who created the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which, by the way, was a complete hoax. These are the guys who said Saddam Hussein's got message weapons of mass destruction. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And, I mean, I could sit here and talk about this stuff, but it's now documented. I mean, it's documented. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was a joke, but we're the only Christian ministry to ever really go in and do a deep dive on the subject. A lot of people talk about Roswell, but they never go anywhere. They never talk to anybody. They don't do any interviews.
Well, you've been sounding the alarm. The thing is that I found interesting was the last interview we did. You talked about the Super Bowl spot and this year, and the footage of the Super Bowl spot was everyone is looking up in the sky, seeing UAPs. So even though not everyone's saying these are UAPs, they're just saying drones. It's just interesting that they had that. Is it like a predictive programming? Because honestly, when I'm looking around, I'm seeing what other people are commenting on. There's a lot of people out there who now believe the drones are UAPs or the orbs that are that they're seeing are part of that they're UAPs. Now, this was another thing that I found interesting because I watched an ex-Navy pilot named Ryan Graves, and he said the drones are operating, and he believes in UAPs. Now, he was interviewed and he said the drones are operating with a technology that he isn't familiar with. Now, I know you've heard this kind of thing. He said no heat detection, sharp turns at low air speeds. 5 or 6 hours, they still can stay up in the air with their battery life, and they go over the ocean where they're not trackable. So, what's your comment on those different?
Again, what we may be looking at is some sort of non-human technology. This could be the Vanguard. Allegedly, they're citing these things over in Europe now. Now, I can't vet that, but that's what I've heard.
No, I heard UK. Yep, too.
Yeah. So, what are we really looking at here? I mean, is this the Vanguard of some kind of disclosure? Again, I think, and I talk about this, the end game. It's the last rung of disclosure. What do I realize, folks, there's LA holding up his book again. All he wants us to do is buy his book. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, folks, stay ignorant. That's good. Stay ignorant. Just be complete. All the stuff is coming down. I've got 10 films and books. I've been talking about this, waving my arm for 30 years. But you guys just go ahead and stay ignorant because, being ignorant is that's the way to be, right? And so many people think they know, but they don't know. So ignorance and arrogance is the deadly combination. Do your homework. Do your homework. Janie's got a great deal here. Buy it from her. You help support her. You help support us. But I talk about this, in the book. They're waiting for the trigger. These entities, these fallen ones, they have a very nefarious agenda. They are permitted to go. They're sent on some level. How does that work? I don't know. But it's like we're seeing orbs. We're seeing all this stuff. We're not shooting them down. They're encroaching on our airspace. They're up in the air. Non-human technology. I had a source that told me it was a friend of a friend of a friend. So I can't really vet this because there's no way to vet it. But someone was saying that this is information. This is technology that came out of Area 51, specifically S4 at Area 51. Now, how can I vet that? I can't. It's like third-hand information when I get it. So, I mean, you can say, here's what I've been told. I have no idea whether that's true or not. I can't vet it in any way. But, underline the word but, it would not surprise me one bit. Because they've been back engineering the propulsion system and the craft from Area 51 since Bob Lazar was there in the 90s. So it's 30 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, here this ex-Navy pilot who's supposed to be an expert said he has no idea what this technology is. He's not familiar with it. And I found that interesting. Okay, so there was the Pentagon briefing on December 17th. They said, this is not military. This is not unusual. I mean, it's the same, the controlled narrative that you always talk about. And they said, we have this happen all the time. The other thing is that other people are saying there's a lot of radiation coming out of these drones. But anyway, back to this Pentagon briefing, he said, oh, it's just commercial or it's hobbyists. But then when they asked him, well, how do you even know they're hobby drones? And he said, oh, you'll have to ask Congress. Now, the interesting thing is the thumbnail that they used for this it said, "Don't look up." So "Don't Look Up" is a title from a 2021 Netflix movie of a planet killing comet. So what are they trying to tell us?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
And
they're never really straight. At least this administration, they're never straight with the American people. I mean, they just aren't. Obfuscate, obfuscate, obfuscate. Do the Texas two-step. Delete, delete. Look over there, look over there. Which is why the mainstream media, in some way, has lost all credibility. I mean, Trump said this when he was running for president, when he sat down with, I forget who it was, one of the reporters from CNN, and basically said, the people don't trust you. People don't trust you, and we don't. I mean, I don't watch any mainstream media. I go to Fox every now and then. I go to Fox and CNN on the internet just to see the difference in stories and have a good laugh, because it's like, So what people are now getting their information from are people like you, people like me, people like Joe Rogan. That's where people are getting, so the whole mainstream media, these talking heads that make millions of dollars a year and are not real official and blah, blah, blah. They're reading off a teleprompter. That's all they're doing. They're reading off a teleprompter. Granted, journalists are out there trying to find information. So, am I a journalist? Well, I'm out there trying to find information. I mean, that's what I do. I talk to people. So when I'm telling you something, I'm telling you what I talked to. Like for instance, the third-hand information I got about S4 Area 51. There's no way to vet that. Anybody can tell a friend of a friend anything and then tell it to me. How can I possibly vet that? I can't. However, the reason why I brought that up is it does seem in some ways credible, because we know from Bob Lazar back in the 90s that our government was back engineering crashed craft. Now, before you start saying that that's conspiracy theory, in the book, Rungs of Disclosure, one of those rungs is David Grush. One of the last rungs in the book is David Grush before Congress, the Congressional Committee to find out what these UAPs/UFOs are. And Grush says, we have retrieved crashed craft. And then Nancy Mace asks him, well, what about the pilots? Yes, we have biologics. And Nancy Mace asks, were they human or non-human biologics? He looks right up at her, non-human biologics. This was stated in the halls of Congress. And then Nancy Mace, jokingly, I don't know. I think I love her because she's just pedal to the metal and she's trying to get to the truth. Hallelujah. We got somebody in there that's trying to, if I was in South Carolina, I'd vote for her twice if I could. I'm joking, obviously. But because you can't vote for people twice. One man, one vote. One woman, one vote. End of story. But I digress. So the bottom line, she's saying, let's bring one of these bodies into Congress. Why can't we do that? Why can't we see what they look like? And she's right. Why can't the American people see what's going on? And don't give us the typical tap dance about national security. It's not a security issue here. It's the fact that you guys are holding all the cards and you lie to us. I believe, with all due respect, I believe that they lied at Roswell hundreds of, decades ago. They lied at Roswell, and that set the precedent for the way they were going to deal with this UAP phenomena. So I don't know, Janie. I think in the days ahead, we're going to see where this goes.
I just want to read to you just a few other things, because I think LA, even the information that's coming out is a distraction, because, okay, we know now that there's some technology that is non-human here because of the way it's, even, that ex-Navy pilot described it. And you talked about it too, of like that they disappear sometimes.
Right.
But it's interesting because in February 2016, Barack Obama signed a bill that made it easier for domestic drones to get off the ground. Now, I'm thinking that when he did that, it's just to then finally for people to say, see, it's not a big deal. I just found that very interesting. But meanwhile, in the beginning of when this whole thing was happening, Representative Jeff Van Drew said, these could possibly be from Iran. So that's what he says. And then Now, I just saw a Forbes interview with a U.S. China relations expert, and he said he believes that these are a foreign threat and planned for the worst. And now General Michael Flynn on Twitter, X, I'm sorry. The Communist Chinese Party has a drone carrying vessel to launch drones, and then he also reposted. The CH-7 is a stealthy drone, and China claims that it can easily penetrate hostile airspace to conduct intelligence, surveillance. So it's like we're hearing all these different kind of things. It's like I feel like there's a laser pointer here and here and here. Now we know that it's technology that seems to be not human, but it's like, are they then working with the Chinese? Are we working with the Chinese? Like, what do you think?
Well, I mean, again, like you, I'm looking at what's coming down the pike and scratching my head, going, what am I really looking at here? What's really going on? And we don't know. At this, on December 19th, we don't know. But I painted in the beginning of the show three different scenarios. The drones are looking for spikes in radioactivity because there's a dirty bomb there. This whole thing could be some sort of a way to create martial law. A nuke could go off, create martial law, shut down the government, basically can't travel, can't do this, no inauguration. That's the second possibility. Third possibility, these might be non-human technology, the vanguard of something, testing the water, getting people to look up. Remember that last time I was on, I showed you that clip,
Right.
look up. I mean, there
From the
it is,
Super
right?
Bowl.
Yeah,
I
from the Super
know.
Bowl. That's unbelievable. So
Right. Was that predictive
way down
programming?
there, yeah, predictive programming. So,
Yeah.
but as of December 19th, I gave you three scenarios. I don't know what the truth is. I just don't know, and I
Right.
don't think our government is being forthright with us.
No, I totally agree with you, and it's just something for all of us to pray. I'm not trying to impart any fear. It's just to pray. And for those who are watching, I'd like you to put in the comments, what you think it could be too. And so, LA, again, explain the offer because for me, it's very important that this gets into a lot of people's hands because a big grand deception we know is going to take place. You've been sounding the alarm. And even with this drone thing, there's a deception going on. So, yeah, explain the offer.
Well, folks, the bottom line is we've got Rungs of Disclosure and then the 10-box DVD set. So it's all right here. It's a great deal, and we're splitting the profits with her. It's a way to keep her going. It keeps us going. I'm trying to get it in the camera here. It keeps us both going. But there's so much information here. My business partner Gil Zimmerman and I did 10 films on the whole UFO phenomena. Then of course Rungs of Disclosure. Rungs of Disclosure. I mean, it talks about where we are, what's being discussed in the halls of Congress. So the bottom line, folks, if you get these two films, it will arm you with the truth from a biblical Christian viewpoint. So go to Janie's website. The link's right there.
Actually,
Check
it'll be
it
right
out.
in the description. Yep, in the
There you
description.
go. Check it out and educate yourself because you think but if you think you know something but you don't know something, and you don't know it. And we're not making this stuff up. So thanks for having me on, Janie. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much.